157 subscribers celebration. Special thanks to Corey Turner Talks Cars for being the 157 subscriber. Really appreciate it. And I thought to match the theme of cars, I would tell you a little story about my Toyota Camry we got here. So there it is. Isn't she beautiful? So this Toyota Camry, it's just an old 98, is my first vehicle. And sorry, I gotta turn it around. I'm gonna go inside. It's really hot. Just a second. Okay, we got the fan on. It's much cooler in here. So the story about my Camry, the first car I got, and I got it in Portland. I was looking on Craigslist. Yeah, I think Craigslist. Anyway, it seemed to be in really good condition. It's a 98 and it had low miles. It was like 100,000 miles for a 98 Toyota Camry. So I was like, sweet, I want a low mileage vehicle. And I feel like Toyotas are really reliable vehicles. So that's why I wanted to go with that. I only had $2,600 though. And the asking price was like $3,200. So I was like, well, I probably don't really have a shot at it, but I texted the guy and was like, look, I got $2,600 cash. Can I just pay, does that work? Would you take that? And he's like, yeah, that works. And I was like, okay. Well, he didn't even try to counter offer. So I was a little fishy, and this is my first time buying a car. So I probably should have been smarter. At least I learned a lesson from this. But anyway, he's in Portland. I was in Eugene, Oregon. So I had to travel like 2 hours just to see the car. But I had a lot of hope and faith that it was a good one because of the low mileage, and it looked to be in good shape and everything, and had a clean title. And anyway, so we go to Portland, meet with this guy. And when I say we, my dad went with me. We were driving the car around and it seemed to work fine. I don't know. The only thing I could think of was that it didn't seem to accelerate really fast, but it's a 4-cylinder and it's an old Camry. So I was like, I was keeping my expectations fairly low because anyway, the car seemed to run fine. It only had 100,000 miles in it, and he was going to do it for $2,600. So I was like, okay, great, we'll do it. So we pay him the $2,600. We start driving away. Of course, we test drove it for a little while, and we got it out on the freeway too. But as we're driving it away, the check engine light comes on. And so that's fantastic. Eventually, we're able to get it all the way back to Idaho, which is where I'm living at the time. But we take it to a Toyota dealership, have them inspect the whole thing. And they're like, well, you really lucked out because this Toyota is in great condition for how old it is. Everything works just fine, except that your transmission is completely shot. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh. Because for those of you who don't know, a transmission is really expensive, and it's basically worth the whole value of the car. If I were to get a new one, it would have been like $4,000, and I paid $2,600 for this car. So they sold me a used transmission for like $1,900, which knowing better now, I probably could have shopped around and got a better deal. But anyway, so what happened, and it's crazy. This is how everything goes full circle, okay? This is how I figured out what happened and how we got totally just used, taken to the cleaners by this guy, Dominic. He wasn't Dominic. I ended up getting pulled over just because I was driving home late. The cop said the reason he was pulling me over is because they were looking for druggies or something. It was kind of a poor excuse. I think the cop realized I really didn't do anything to where it warranted me being pulled over. But so he was very friendly. He was very nice. But he did say, well, because after he checked my registration and everything, he's like, why haven't you put the new plates on yet? And I just hadn't gotten around to it. I was like, sorry, I can do that right now. But he said he ended up telling me that I was the third owner, or that the car was purchased just back in January, which didn't make sense for the one guy being the first owner. And then it hit me. The $200 was because this guy that sold me the car was knew full well that the car had a shot transmission. And so the honest person that was the original owner was like, look, this car's in great shape, low mileage, but the transmission is crap. And that's super expensive, so I'll sell it to you for $200. And so the guy bought it for $200 and then pretended to be the original owner and sold it to me for $2,600. So that all hit me because that cop pulled me over. So I was grateful for that, but oh my goodness. So I mean, if I knew more about cars, maybe I would have recognized the reason the car isn't like speeding up very fast is because it doesn't have a first gear. And the reason, and also when I was driving home, the check engine light came on. I noticed that the RPMs were like 4,000, 5,000 RPMs, that should not be the case when you're on the freeway. It should be sitting like around 2,000, 3,000. So there wasn't a sixth gear either. So 2 gears were missing because the transmission shot. Had to replace it. Cost me like twice as much as the car's worth. So be careful when you're buying cars. Anyway, Corey Turner talks cars. This was Zach Johnson talking cars. Thanks again for subscribing. Hopefully that wasn't a long, boring story, but just be careful when you get used vehicles, okay? People are sneaky and will totally steal your money.